The gospel today is pretty cool. It's the end of the story. Remember, Zechariah doesn't believe that Elizabeth can have a child because she's too old. And he's struck mute. He says, how can this be? Same question Mary asks, but a whole different spirit. Mary says, how can this be? But she asks it in humility. Zechariah asked the question. Apparently there was some pride in it, some resistance. So he was struck mute. And today, at the birth of the child, that disobedience is cured through his obedience. They say, what should we call him? Should we name him after the Father? And he writes out, his name is John, just as the angel Gabriel said it would be. And then his tongue is loosed. The other thing, John the Baptist is a voice crying out in the wilderness. Look, we are living in a secular humanist culture. Our culture is shifted from a Judeo-Christian moral base to a secular humanist base. Sometimes, at least it's still humanist, but we're even losing that. There's even now confusion not only between the sexes, they're now confusing and the genders, but confusion even happening between species. That's beginning to happen. Watch, it's going to unfold. We're going to become more and more animal-like in a bad way. So at least we're still humanist. But in the midst of this, first of all, the church is a voice in the wilderness. We are no longer the majority. We're the minority in the secular humanist society. So we have to stand together. And if you think it hasn't affected the church, you're wrong. The people in the church, we are all deeply affected by the stuff we watch on TV and hear in our music and hear in our culture. The language, the pornography, just the coarseness of it. So if you think you're unaffected, you're wrong. So we are even in the church. We are voices crying out in the wilderness. So don't be afraid to be that voice in the wilderness, but always raise your voice with boldness and humility. Then you're going to be safe. And never leave the church. Stay in the church, but cry out for revival and renewal. That's my prayer for you. I love you so much. All things are possible with God.